Hi all, this is a desktop PC I picked up from a friend who wants me to give it a few updates. Now, I did advise that it's quite an old platform, but I was intrigued as to see what it could actually do once those updates were applied. So the case hasn't actually got any manufacturer's mark on it, but it's a standard desktop size case. It's quite sturdy, it's got sheet metal rather than plastic. So looking at the front, which you probably can't see that well actually, let me see if I can put some light on it. It's not that great actually. So top to bottom, it's got a DVD writer drive and it's got USB ports, headphone microphone ports, and it's actually got a 1/4 inch floppy drive, which shows you how old this case is. So I'm not sure if he's going to make much use of that, but it's there anyway. So moving the case round to the side, it's got a vent there for the CPU cooler shroud, which I'll show you in a minute, and it's got another vent outlet there. So I'll move this round so you can see the back. So top to bottom, that's the power supply exhaust fan. Now, it didn't come with an case exhaust fan, so I've added a fan that I had lying about there. So there's the motherboard connections. That's the graphics cards connection. It's a GTX 750 Ti. It's not really worth fitting anything higher than that, because as we'll come on to the spec in a minute, that CPU will absolutely bottleneck it like crazy. It's probably bottlenecking that anyway, but it's available and it just takes power from the PCIe slot, so it doesn't need any external connections. There's a slot, the cover is actually missing there, so I've got on order a thin sheet of aluminium small size that I'll cut, and I'll just put some electrical tape on the inside to cover that up. So what I'll do now is get this panel off. Did actually have a couple of screws, but I've taken those out, and as I've done with the other side, I'll replace them with knurled screws that you can just undo by hand. So I'll just take the side panel off. Oh, looking at the panel, that's you don't get these anymore, but that's the shroud that sits over the top of the CPU cooler. I suppose the function is to get more hot air out quicker, but you don't see them on cases anymore. The fans are a lot better. So I'll just move this so you can see the inside. It's a bit of a mess at the moment, but I just want to get it working, so there's no cable management really. Now, what I've got is I've got a 500 gig hard drive for Windows 10 and a 350 hard drive for a fresh copy of Windows XP Service Pack 3. And the plan is to put yet another hard drive in, 250 gig, and put Linux Mint in there. Now, there is drivers for that 750 Ti for all three operating systems. So really it's for my friend to experiment with all three operating systems. I'm sure he's got some old software around that he wants to run an XP that will install an XP and run better on XP than Windows 10. Now, I was benchmarking some games and other benchmarking tools on Windows 10, so to keep that drive's copy fresh, I put Windows 10 on another drive sitting there just for benchmarking, which we'll run through in another video. And the Linux Mint drive will sit there. Now, there's enough SATA connections, power and data, to connect to all three drives, and on boot you select the boot menu and you can select which drive you want and therefore which operating system you want. Now, just to run through the spec. At the top we've got a 500 watt hard drive, which is quite old, but it'll do the job. Now it's making a horrible whining noise, as these older supplies tend to do. Don't be worried, it was just the fan that needed oiling, so I took the fan out, and in the centre of the fan there's a removable rubber plug. You just remove that and just drop some sewing machine oil in there, which is ideal for that, and it's been fine. So the CPU is I upgraded to, if you can call it an upgrade, well it is compared to what was there before. It's an AMD Phenom II X4 840 CPU. There's 8 gig of RAM in there, and as I mentioned before, there's a GTX 750 Ti there. That's the exhaust fan that I added, and also there was no intake fan, so just there I pulled the front panel off and installed an intake fan there. So the plan is to get that Linux Mint installed. So I'll take this drive out, put the Linux Mint drive in there, and just tidy up a few of these cables as well. That's the DVD writer drive, and I'll run a few benchmarks and just show the performance of this system. Thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions, just drop me a comment. And don't forget to subscribe, and the next video will be the benchmarks.